I'm Ella, and my major is communications. Did you know it's Bronco Giving Day? If you listen to Boise State Public Radio, it's run by broadcast professionals and students like me. Thank you.
Since Boise State Public Radio was founded, students have been an integral part of day-to-day operations. Help us connect across campus and through our community. You can fund our student programs with your gift on Bronco Giving Day. Learn more and support at boisestatepublicradio.org.
It's Friday, you made it, and this is The Connector, Idaho Daily News from Boise State Public Radio. This morning, funding for local Head Start programs caught up in the budget and personnel slashing by the federal government. Do the risks of allowing alcohol on the CSI campus outweigh the potential revenue? Who should govern the state's childhood immunization guidelines? Lawmakers want control. And the full lineup for this spring's Treefort Music Fest is out. We'll have a preview. Those stories and more coming up on The Connector. We start this morning in eastern Idaho, where one person is dead, another alive with non-life-threatening injuries after Bonneville County sheriffs say a helicopter crashed onto the ice at Ryrie Reservoir near Idaho Falls. Multiple agencies responded to the site around 4:40 yesterday afternoon using snow machines from a nearby campground to access the crash. That's where they found one occupant of the helicopter dead and another injured. A downed power line was also discovered nearby. The Federal Aviation Administration and National Transportation Safety Board have been notified, and an investigation is underway. Officials say it's not immediately clear what the helicopter was doing in that area. Victims have not yet been identified. The State House Health and Welfare Committee Thursday introduced legislation which would shift authority over Idaho's childhood immunization guidelines from the Department of Health and Welfare to the state legislature. Idaho Ed News reports the bill, sponsored by Republican Representative Dora Healy, would not change the guidelines directly, but would change the governance over them, making them a state statute instead of an agency rule. The bill could receive a public hearing at a later date. The State Land Board this week approved the purchase of more than 15 acres of land so the state's Veterans Cemetery can continue to be a final resting place for future Idaho vets. Boise Dev reports the purchase of land immediately west of the existing Veterans Cemetery will cost the state just under $4 million. That's about $1 million less than the land appraised for. The parcel is owned but unused by the adjoining Dry Creek Cemetery, which already shares some operational costs with the Veterans Cemetery. The current Veterans Cemetery is the final resting place of about 8,000 Idaho vets. It's estimated to reach capacity in about 8 years, as is. Boise Dev reports the State Veterans Services Chief Administrator told the Land Board the purchase will allow them to continue to accept veterans for burial or internment for another 4 decades. Funding for local Head Start educational programs has gotten tied up by budget and personnel slashing happening at the federal level. Late last month, an executive order from President Trump paused all federal grant and loan disbursements. That order left widespread confusion across government agencies, including Head Start programs, which are administered locally to benefit low-income families. Trump's order was subsequently clarified to not include Head Start funding, but the money had already been frozen. And in Idaho, the 13 Head Start operations supporting hundreds of local families were left in the lurch. That money stayed frozen until last Monday, forcing operations to use reserves to make payroll last week. And the uncertainty was chaotic, says Megan Wheeler, executive director of the state's Head Start Association.
Not only is this an early childhood education opportunity, it's also, in a sense, many families' form of childcare. So if you're relying on Head Start, knowing that your kid's going to be safe and fed and learning in Head Start while you're at work all day, to know that maybe tomorrow that might not be the case, that's pretty rattling.
Wheeler spoke to Idaho Matters yesterday. She says once funds were released, reserves were replenished and services are moving forward as normal. But she says personnel cuts at the federal level mean Head Start grant applications are likely to take longer to be fulfilled. And there's a concern that Congress could reduce their funding overall, meaning they'd reach even fewer than the 25% of eligible Idahoans currently served by Head Start. College of Southern Idaho trustees are reviewing a policy enacted last year allowing events on the otherwise dry campus to have beer and wine in exchange for a share of the sales. The Times News reports CSI profited just over $300 from 5 events over the last year with catering partner Sodexo. A much larger fundraiser hosted on campus used a different caterer and paid CSI a flat $3,000 fee, but trustees suspect that was far less than a 10% cut from the event might have been. But beyond that one-off event, there is a concern that the risks of allowing booze at campus events is simply too high, even with the requirement that organizers carry liability insurance. The alcohol sales program is considered a pilot. CSI trustees have not made changes to allow for more information as more events happen, but the Times News reports trustees this week seemed dubious at the prospect of extending the program in the future. Finally this morning, something to look forward to on a Friday. The final lineup is out now for the upcoming Treefort Music Fest, the multi-day, multi-venue music festival in downtown Boise. There are some familiar names like local exports Built to Spill and Josh Ritter. They'll play alongside out-of-towners like Shaky Graves and headliner Bright Eyes. Julie Luqueta has more.
Around 480 bands are set to play in venues across the city for the 13th edition of the festival. Co-founder Eric Gilbert says while Treefort is described as indie rock, the festival samples a bit of everything, from Americana to hip-hop to electro-punk and classical orchestra.
The iPod generation sort of like changed how people listen to music. And, we really think of Treefort as a festival for music fans. There's no specific genre.
The lineup includes indie darlings the Linda Lindas, up-and-comer Remy Wolf, musical duo Sophie Tucker, as well as international bands like Australia's Emil and the Sniffers and Chilean composer Jose Tomas Molina. Gilbert says Treefort is a place where musicians come not only to play for the fans, but for each other.
It's where the bands are fans and the fans are bands. So you see a lot of the bands are out, seeing shows.
Comedian Rory Scovel will also headline the festival's comedy lineup. This year, Treefort will scale down from 5 to 4 days, and it's also moving to 3 stages in Julia Davis Park, in addition to venues downtown. The festival will run from March 27th to the 30th. Julie Luqueta, Boise State Public Radio News.
Some great girls basketball happening this weekend with the state basketball tournaments at 6 different sites across the Treasure Valley. Championships will be crowned on Saturday. Each classification's championship game is at the Idaho Center in Nampa. I'm Troy Oppie. Our news director is Sasha Woodruff. Our newsroom's guest editor is Erica Peterson. Our general manager is Tom Michael. Hope you have a great Friday, a great weekend. We'll catch you again on Monday.
Each morning, it's a new opportunity, a chance to start fresh. Up First from NPR makes each morning an opportunity to learn and to understand. Choose to join the world every morning with Up First, a podcast that hands you everything going on across the globe and down the street, all in 15 minutes or less. Start your day informed and anew with Up First by subscribing wherever you get your podcasts.